On the other hand, there will be people who will create their own mode of worship. That's what Avodah Zarah is. They'll create their own way of relating to God because, and again, they'll say, but this is my uniqueness. And they'll create their own practices. They'll create their own ideas. They'll create their own ceremonies. They'll create their own religion. At that point, what they've done is they've created Avodah Zarah. Maimonides has a long essay where he says that the original idolaters understood that there was one God. But they created their own way of relating to that God. To the point that people forgot what they were even trying to do, and they ended up relating to the things that they had created, and not to the...
What about Christianity or every other religion?
What about it?
Is that, would you say they've done the same?
To a very great extent.
So what about if you weren't religious and you just wanted to connect to God in your own way? Is that again?
Am I a Christian or am I a Jew? When you ask this question, I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Whether you accept Judaism, Christianity, it doesn't matter what, but you just want to connect to God in your own way.
Yes.
Accept it?
No, I would think not, because what you're doing is you're creating your own form of worship that God did not ask for. I mean, if I can make the question very, very stronger than I made before, because perhaps you didn't understand as a whole, you didn't understand what I'd meant before. Anybody know what was inside the Holy of the Holies in the temple? There were two little forms. You know what they look like? Cherubs. Have you ever heard of cherubs? Like on Valentine's Day, like these little baby-like things. Little baby, like with wings. I don't know why they assume that. Okay, and little baby-like things. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, the idea of these two forms were like Adam and Eve before they sinned. It's the idea of man at their greatest point, and that's what was standing inside the temple in the Holy of Holies, in order to remind us of where things were. Because again, I'm telling you, the major idea in Judaism is to get back to the purity that we were at a very, very long time ago. The nakedness of Adam and Eve, think about this for a moment. The nakedness of Adam and Eve was not something which was perverted, it was not something which was dirty, it was not something... And then, by the way, I'm not advocating nudity at this point. But their nakedness was something which was quite pure and quite innocent. And we look at it, and in the second after they ate from the apple, they looked at their nakedness as something which was very, very distasteful. Because they had changed. They'd become jaded. They'd become wounded. Spiritually, they'd become wounded.
Okay, so basically, in essence, God doesn't ask us to... He doesn't really care if we do the mitzvah or whatever, but we do it for our souls, to elevate them. So the strange worship is basically... He doesn't care, but it doesn't do anything for our souls. Except it must do something for people's souls, because people become better people. So if you're a Christian and you're religious, you're still going to be a better person, and your soul's still going to improve. So how can that... And that's according to you, strange worship. So how can that actually be like a bad thing? Because you might not even believe in one God if you weren't a Christian.
Okay. So let me. Your point is very well taken. Let's start and put everything together. Let's try to make sense out of the whole talk. First, correct. God is not affected if I do X or if I do Y. God is not changed. God is not smile. God is not happier. God created man with a spiritual capability to him. I perform the commandments, it helps elevate me. I perform the sins, it hurts me. Most of what I'm speaking of, if not everything, is on a spiritual level, not on a physical level. But when I hurt myself spiritually, it then affects the world physically. God gives me commandments which is based on an understanding about what man is. If I create my own worship, that will not bring me closer to God, it doesn't mean that I won't get a rush. It doesn't mean that I won't perhaps have what somebody called adrenaline. It doesn't mean perhaps that I won't feel something at that particular moment, because perhaps I will feel. The question is, will I feel something which is real, or will I feel something which is artificial? I mean, you have to think a second. Why would anyone 3,000 years ago have worshipped an idol? Can you think of something which is crazier than worshipping an idol? If a real prophet exists, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Elijah, how in the world could a person follow idolatry and ignore these great religious leaders? Moses. How can any sane person do such a thing? I have a choice in front of me. Idolatry or divine worship. How can anybody choose idolatry? And there's a very, very, very easy answer. And all of us in this generation should understand it. The easy answer is that it was simpler. It was easier. It was immediate gratification. You didn't have to work as much. You know, if I would ask a question, which you'll all look at me and say, well, that's a stupid question. If I would say, how in the world can anybody today take drugs? It's crazy. How can a person take drugs? It's dangerous for you. It's bad for your mind. I can go on and on and on. And you can all agree with everything I say, but you'll all know why people take them. But why? I mean, but it's the same issue again. It's immediate gratification. If I were to tell you, for argument's sake, that if you were to master the study of Talmud, and perhaps then get past the study of Talmud and get into the study of Zohar, and get into the highest levels of Kabbalistic study, if I would guarantee you, perhaps you wouldn't disagree with me on this point, you can get a high, you can get a rush, which is far beyond any sort of drug that you can take. It could be you'd agree with me, but most people would say, that may be true, but how long will it take me till I get there? How many years of study, and is there a guarantee even at the end? And I would have to be honest and answer to you, say, I don't know how many years, and I can't guarantee it. So just one second. So then many people could say, well, if that's the case, then why bother trying to do this if I can get the alternative? But I'm saying even though the alternative cognitively is a complete absurdity, but it was the same issue back then. If a person would worship idolatry, there was a rush involved in it. There was an excitement involved in it. There was an artificial spiritual experience which was going on, which could be quite meaningful and quite moving. But it's artificial, and that's really what it was all about. According to many, if not most, Jewish authorities, Christianity is, on the most part, a heresy from the Jewish perspective. If it's a heresy, it does not necessarily mean that it is an idolatry, which then creates this funny. Excuse me?
Is that the same for Islam as well?
Islam is less problematic. Islam doesn't make the same sort of claims as most Christianity does. And also realize right away when I speak of Christianity, I'm lumping together many, many different streams and beliefs and ideas together, which is quite unfair of me, but just for argument's sake at this moment. Christians non-Jews are commanded 7 commandments. One of those 7 commandments is the belief in one God. According to most contemporary authorities, and I'm not talking contemporary, I'm saying for the last 800 years or so, most contemporary authorities, a non-Jew is not obliged, is not obligated to believe in one God in the same manner that a Jew is to believe in one God, which means